Picture a small Tokyo apartment early in the morning. A child is sitting on the floor trying to finish a simple puzzle. He gets frustrated, reaches for his mother, and for a moment it looks like she might jump in. But she doesn't. She waits, she watches. She lets him struggle just long enough to find the next piece on his own. And that tiny moment tells you almost everything about how Japanese parents raise intelligent children, not by pushing harder. Not by flooding kids with expensive lessons, not by treating every mistake like an emergency. They build something deeper, the conditions where intelligence can grow on its own. And by the end of this video, you'll know the 4 parenting habits that do that and how you can start using them tonight. And first, let's be clear about what intelligence means here. We're not just talking about test scores. We're talking about language, memory, focus, problem solving, curiosity, and the ability to stay calm when something feels hard. In other words, the kind of intelligence that helps a child learn, adapt, and keep going. Japanese parents tend to build that kind of intelligence in ordinary moments, not in flashy ones. And that's the first big lesson. Intelligence is not only taught in schools, it is shaped at home, one daily interaction at a time. Principle 1 is something Japanese parents often practice without even naming it, mimamoru. It means to watch over while protecting. In the West, when a child gets stuck, we rush in, we solve it, we rescue them from the discomfort. And we do it because we love them. But the child learns something else. They learn that difficulty means an adult will appear and finish the task. Japanese parents take a different approach. They stay close, but they don't remove every challenge. They let the child wrestle with the problem long enough for the brain to do its work. Because every time a child tries, fails, adjusts, and tries again, they are building the mental muscles behind persistence, self-control, and reasoning. That's not neglect, that's training the brain to think. Principle 2 is language. Japanese parents talk to children like real people long before the child can answer back. They narrate what they're doing, they explain the weather. They describe the meal. They use full sentences, clear words, and a calm tone. That matters more than most people realize. A child's brain is building pathways for language every single day, and the more rich language they hear, the more tools they have for thought itself. Words do not just decorate thinking. In childhood, words help create thinking. So when a parent says, "We're putting on your shoes now because it's time to go outside," instead of a rushed command or a sing-song phrase that says very little, the child is learning grammar, sequence, and meaning at the same time. They're also learning that communication is normal, respectful, and safe. Principle 3 is responsibility. In many Japanese homes, children are given small jobs early. They put away their shoes, they clear their plate. They help set the table, they carry things, and in schools that idea continues. Children clean their own classrooms, they help with shared routines, they see themselves as contributors, not passengers. That's a huge difference. Because when a child repeatedly experiences, "I can do useful things," intelligence stops feeling fragile. It becomes connected to identity. The child doesn't just know facts. The child learns, "I am capable." And once that identity takes root, effort feels less like punishment and more like who I am. Principle 4 is rhythm. Japanese families are often very intentional about repetition, routine, and quiet moments. Bedtime is not chaotic, mealtimes are steady. There is less constant stimulation and fewer frantic attempts to entertain every spare minute. That matters because intelligence needs space. A child who is always being rushed, rescued, or overstimulated has less room to observe, remember, and reflect. But a child who experiences predictable rhythm learns to pay attention to patterns. And pattern recognition is at the heart of intelligence. This is also why quiet tasks matter so much. Folding clothes, watering plants, packing a bag, wiping a table, sitting through a small moment of boredom, these things seem ordinary, but they train the brain to tolerate focus. And focus is a superpower. Now, I want to be careful here. This is not about copying every Japanese habit exactly. It's not about pretending one culture has a perfect formula and everyone else should follow it blindly. What matters is the principle underneath the practice. Don't rescue too quickly. Don't simplify language too much. Don't give children only comfort and no responsibility. Don't fill every quiet moment with noise. The goal is not to make childhood rigid. The goal is to build a child who feels safe enough to explore, capable enough to try, and steady enough to learn from frustration. That's the kind of environment where intelligence takes root. So, what can you actually do tonight? Start with one sentence. The next time your child struggles, try saying, I see you're working on it. Then wait, don't fill the silence too fast. Give them a little room to think. That small pause tells the brain you are capable. Next, narrate one ordinary task in full language. First, we put the toys in the box, then we wash our hands, then we sit down to eat. That sounds simple, but it gives your child structure, sequence, and vocabulary all at once. You don't need expensive flashcards to build intelligence. You need repeated, meaningful language and a calm adult voice. Then give one real responsibility, even if it takes longer. Let them place their shoes by the door. Let them carry the napkins. Let them pour water with help. The job does not have to be perfect. In fact, it won't be. That's not the point. The point is repetition. Every small task says, you belong here, you contribute here, you can handle this. And that message, repeated over time, becomes confidence. Finally, protect one quiet pocket in the day. 10 minutes without a screen, 10 minutes without background noise, 10 minutes where your child has to notice the world instead of being entertained by it. That kind of quiet is where focus begins. Here's the deeper pattern linking all four habits. Japanese parents are usually doing two things at once, making the child feel deeply safe and then gradually making the child do slightly harder things. Safety without challenge leads to dependence. Challenge without safety leads to anxiety. But when the two are balanced, the brain gets exactly what it needs. It can relax enough to absorb language, try enough to build skill, and repeat enough to build memory. That's why the smartest looking kids are not always the ones with the most worksheets. They are often the ones whose homes have strong routines, calm adults, and a quiet belief that children grow when they're trusted. And if this sounds simple, that's because it is. Children do not need a perfect parent, they need a parent who is consistent enough for the world to make sense. So the next time you watch your child struggle with a zipper, a puzzle, a sentence, or a small disappointment, remember that you are watching intelligence form in real time. Not when they get the answer right. In the moment they are trying, pausing, and trying again. That is where reasoning grows, that is where patience grows, that is where confidence grows. Japanese parents understand something many of us forget in our rush to help. A child who has never had to think, wait, or contribute will often look smart in a shallow way, but the child who has had to build those muscles becomes genuinely capable. And capability is what lasts. It follows them into school, into friendships, into problem solving, and into the way they see themselves. You don't need to become a different kind of parent to use these ideas. You only need to make one small shift at a time, speak a little more clearly, rescue a little less quickly, trust a little more, give one more responsibility, protect one more quiet moment. Those tiny choices may not look impressive from the outside, but over months and years they shape a child's brain in powerful ways. They shape attention, they shape memory, they shape self-belief. And when a child grows up hearing, seeing, and practicing those messages every day, intelligence starts to feel natural instead of forced. So here's your takeaway from today. Japanese parents do not raise intelligent children by treating intelligence like a performance. They raise intelligent children by making life predictable enough to learn from, safe enough to explore, and structured enough to build skill. That is the real secret. If this video gave you a new way to think about your child, share it with another parent who would appreciate it. And if you want more calm, research-backed videos on parenting and child psychology, subscribe. There's a lot more coming. Go back to that child on the floor for a second. The mother didn't make intelligence happen in that moment by explaining everything or stepping in too fast. She made it possible by creating a world where trying was safe. That is what Japanese parenting often gets right. Not perfection, not pressure, possibility. And if you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. The brain grows where trust, language, responsibility, and rhythm meet. That is where children become not just educated, but genuinely capable. See you in the next one. If this helped, comment capable and tell me which habit you want to start first tonight with your child together.